Teen-centric.
Teen-centric.
You're listening to Teen-centric.
Teen-centric.
KPBQ LP Ventura 104.1 FM.
I'm your host, Craig Rosen. I work as the development director for the Ventura County Arts Council. I teach poetry writing at the Juvenile Hall, the Juvenile Justice Center in Oxnard. I also teach at One Step Olivesa Teen Center in Fillmore. I wanted to create this radio program, Teen-centric, to give these young people a platform and to listen to them and learn what they're feeling in the hopes that we might be able to help them improve their lives. I think it's important for adults to try to understand what a lot of young people who are struggling are experiencing in their personal lives and their home lives that lead them to make mistakes, that lead them to choose drugs, that lead to self-harm, that lead to all kinds of issues that we're seeing a real spike in today's world. It can be really instructional to hear what's going on for them. It's very easy to judge and just make assumptions about people who are maybe, incarcerated in juvenile hall or going through a drug treatment program or hospitalized for mental wellness issues. And every one of them is an individual that is experiencing things that we really need to have some understanding of and some compassion around. The work I do involves helping young people express what they're going through. I encourage them to speak their truths and hopefully in the process to find their voice. I think that adults and anybody listening could agree that it's very hard to live in today's world as a teen, maybe harder than it's ever been. You can start with social media, talk about global warming, school shootings. When I was a teenager, I didn't have to struggle with these sorts of immense problems. Sometimes as we get older, we might have trouble identifying with young people because it can seem like, oh, well, they listen to all this different kind of music and they do all these things that we didn't do, so I don't relate to that. Well, we need to give them space to express even the worst experiences that they have and the most challenging, and to try to help. Some of the youth will choose to remain anonymous, so I won't identify them by name, except in a few instances. I will do my best to provide you with some background about their situation prior to my interview. In our first broadcast, my interview is with a girl from the Evolve Treatment Program. It's an intensive outpatient partial hospitalization program in Camarillo. Since our conversation, she successfully graduated from the program. I'm talking with one of my poetry students, and you're quite the prolific writer.
Thank you.
Yes, you like writing, don't you?
Yeah, I like writing.
It shows in your work.
This poem is called The Fun House. The sickly sweet smell of oozing cakes and crusted pastries draws me in. A deep, ominous voice fills my head. Welcome to the Fun House. His icy words chill my bones. Flickering lights, dusty cobwebs, paired with the overbearing sweet scents, confuses my senses. As the rotting wood floor creaks as I step inside, the fun house is filled with mirrors. I see my worst nightmare reflected back. The voice of the devil within floods my brain. This is what you've become. His words drip with venom. I look in each mirror, hoping to see something else, wanting to look away, knowing I can't. Fumbling for the exit, the voice calling, you cannot leave. The sickening smell of oozing cakes and crusted pastries will be the last thing I know.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. I love the metaphor of the fun house.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what was going through your mind as you were putting that together?
Sure. So, the fun house is, kind of like a metaphor for my brain. And, it's kind of like how I see myself in a negative way, and it seems like there's no escape from it.
Yeah, and the mirrors really work as a kind of, in the funhouse, they put these distorted mirrors in there.
Yeah.
But even without those, that's happening for you when you look at yourself in the mirror. So there's some self-image questions that you bring in there. And one of the things I just admire about you so much is your willingness to take on these subjects that are difficult as they relate to your own feelings about yourself. And we were talking about this just the other day in poetry class, and I was saying, some of our experts on the dark side are against the far wall. You're one of them. Do you remember what you said when I was like, man, how is it that you're able to so comfortably take on the dark?
Because when I write about the dark, it feels like I'm speaking my truth, and when I don't, it feels like I'm lying.
Right. And you're being honest with us.
Yeah.
But, admitting things that don't maybe shine the most positive light on oneself or relate to fears, insecurities. That's hard to do. True or not?
Yeah, it is hard. It brings up a lot of emotions.
Do you feel like some of the work can be cathartic for you and can help with your process of recovery, which you're going through?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely feels really good to just get it out all on paper and get all of those things out of your head.
Right. One thing I'm super happy about with you as a student is that you're able to say, yes, I do recognize that my writing is good. Very few people ever say that in my classes. And what I was wondering is, when you're going through things at home that are not good, things in your own head that are not good, is it hard to separate something where you might honestly be able to say, hey, I'm good at this, but because like life sucks in other areas, that it just all tends to lump together? And if so, how do you separate it?
Yeah, it is hard to recognize the things that you're good at. You have to make a conscious effort to say, oh, I'm good at this. This is something I'm passionate about and I want to get better at. You have to take yourself out of your own head really and see the things that you're good at.
That's pretty hard to do when you're going through a lot of turmoil.
Yeah, really hard.
You have a few poems where the mirror is a presence, and I was thinking, how about reading another one and then we'll talk about it?
Okay. This poem's called A Friend on the Wall. Its sharp edges glint in the sunlight, enticing me to come closer. My only friend stabs me in the back, for fun, never shows me the truth. The mirror is helpful and hateful. Its wicked reflection turns me against myself. The mirror, the dark, disgusting mirror, laughing at me, taking my power.
Taking your power. That is an interesting topic to discuss, personal power.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of us give our power away to addictions, to other people, maybe to a mirror. So the mirror is taking your power, or are you giving your power?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Fair enough.
I feel the mirror has this power over me that I can't really control, but also I'm letting it take control of me.
Yeah. Now, the mirror having power over you or over us, would that be the larger questions about society and how much value we place on appearance?
Yeah.
And it's especially harder for girls, for women.
Yeah.
So you have to battle that on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's really hard because you can't really escape a mirror or escape society's pressure to be perfect and look perfect and have the ideal body. It's really, you have to kind of push that to the side and say, okay, what's going to make me happy? Is it going to be obsessing over this, or is it going to be living my life, dressing confidently, acting confidently, and just being myself?
Knowing that some of the power is in your hands, and those attitudes you discussed, while maybe hard to embrace or feel on a daily basis, what sort of practices do you have to get there?
Well, for the past few weeks, I've been dressing confidently every single day. That's something that really boosts my self-confidence and makes me feel okay, I look good today, I got this.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I see confidence in you because of your writing, because of your courage. And one of the things I was wondering in general, because we've worked with a number of people in the group and you meet a lot of the kids that you're in recovery with, and, stuff at home is difficult. It's usually where it starts, right? Problems at home. So if that's happening, if there are a lot of problems at home, how does it work for you when then you have counselors or other people in your life, other adults in your life who are saying positive things about you? Can that be enough, or is it sort of well, you're not my mom, you're not my dad, so it doesn't matter what you say?
It definitely helps a lot to have a positive role model and have someone tell you you are enough, you are loved. But it's different coming from your own parent, that there's nothing that can replace that.
Right.
And it's just coming to accept that you have to love yourself and see yourself as worthy if if no one else does.
Well, there's a deep truth that you've hit on. And we know that it's hard to do that. One of the things that I like about working with you on the creative side is that it's an outlet, and you are good.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely you are. With regard to, looking at the poems and being able to recognize that you have talent there, which you've said you can see, right? When you think about the future, can you envision a positive future for yourself where your head isn't doing some of these things in front of the mirror? And
I try to. It's definitely something that I struggle with. I struggle envisioning a positive future for myself, but I definitely try to see myself as in some place happy.
Nice. Where I think there could be a metaphor is when you think about artists or bands, they do change their sound at times over time, or they do change the look of their paintings or the style of their writing. So they go through phases. So maybe like this place right now, which is hard for you and is pretty fraught, is a phase.
It's helpful to think of it that way, that it's not going to be like this forever. Like, it's helpful to think, like, all right, just this part of my life is going to be a little crappy right now, but it'll eventually get better.
Yeah. I think if you can hold on to those thoughts, the definition of the juvenile brain, they used to cut it off at 18. That's when it's like you're out of the house, or that's when you're charged as an adult if there's some sort of crime. And now they're really seeing the brain and going, the juvenile brain lasts longer than that, like 26 even.
Yeah.
In my own life, I was struggling with alcohol problems, and it was really at 26 when I turned everything around. And so I'm wondering if, boy, they're onto something.
Yeah, I definitely can understand that, that people, because I know that the frontal lobe isn't all the way developed until you're 25, and that's like the part of the brain that makes decisions and can think rationally. So I know that has a lot to do with how teens act and behave and feel.
Right. And so I did say that to one of the people in group, and she was like, great, I'm 16 now. That's 10 years, man. So it wasn't really helping. But can it help to think that, okay, there will be some physical changes ahead. I've got to just kind of, hold on to the raft and endure the storm.
I think it helps. Personally, because that it'll eventually end. Scientifically, your brain will think differently. So I think that helps, because to know that you're not trapped this way forever.
Right. Although it sure would be nice if along the way adults were cooler to teens.
Yeah, that would help.
Right?
You're listening to CENTRIC. This is KPPQ-LP Ventura 104.1 FM.
One of the girls I work with at a facility called House of Hope, she was mad at some of the staff, and she was saying, when things go a little south, they tell me, use your coping skills. And she's like, I'm 16, man. I don't have any coping skills. So I think that's a process. It's a struggle for everyone. How have you been working with that and developing those?
I think for me, I have to find things that I love doing and that fulfill me and make me feel accomplished, because one of the biggest things is the only thing that makes me feel accomplished is restricting food. So finding something to replace that and actually be healthy for me and fulfill my life, I think that's a big struggle for me.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought it up. I was going to ask you, because you recognize that your writing is something that you're good at, and it seems like it's a good outlet for you. Are there some things that you've discovered, whether it's hobby or interest or something that's fun for you, that's only been something you've discovered recently?
Painting, actually. I'm really into photography and drawing, but I just recently started painting, and it's really relaxing for me, and I really like it.
Nice. The reason I was curious about something more recent, a discovery like that, is I think that you can also envision that, okay, there are probably other things out there too, and I just have to find them, but you got to be open.
Yeah.
It seems like, were you there the day I tried a positivity prompt and it was just not happening?
Yeah, I think I was there for that.
Yeah. So positivity is really hard for people who are struggling to get to. It may be related to what you were saying about your truth, like it just feels disingenuous or phony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah. I know for me, writing positive things is really hard because oftentimes it's not what I'm feeling.
Yeah. And yet you know it's where you want to go.
Yeah.
And you even believe you can get there.
Yeah.
So then it would be like, okay, well, logically,
it makes sense to write positive things, but I think getting out all of the stuff that's in your brain is also helpful, so you don't have to hold on to it.
yeah, that's true because it's a process. It's a purge. It's, you're shredding.
Yeah.
Good for you. How would you like to read another poem?
Sure. This one is called Not Now. Fluorescent lights burn holes in my brain. Constant mumbling drains my thoughts. My body aches for something else, anything else. But right now, my thoughts focus on everything and nothing. Darkness finds its way in. My eyelids snap open. Light. Skin burning light. A lump of shame in my throat. I feel my body expand. Muscles and bones shift. Shifting towards something. Anything but right now.
We talked about coping skills, and we also talked about how it would be helpful if adults could be a little more understanding, sympathetic. I remember when we were discussing topics in general, you were saying like generation gap could be a good one to talk about. You wrote a poem that I haven't been able to type up for you just yet because it was only 2 days ago, but where you talked about like, when will I be enough? Wasn't that one of your lines? Yeah.
Yeah. Will I ever be enough?
Will I ever be enough? But you're talking also about how your loved ones see you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What suggestions can you offer to adults in the world, whether they're your own family members, people that work with you, or just someone who's listening to this program, on how to be better toward youth?
I think if you have teens in your life, like to really listen to them and try to understand where they're coming from and believe what they're saying, because it might really just be a call for help. They might not know what they're going through, and they need someone to guide them, and they need maybe a shoulder to cry on, or they need actual treatment. Just to listen to what they're saying and understand them and believe them.
So then, knowing that there are times when teens are hard to live with, how do you kind of justify the notion that, hey, you got to accept this even when it's hard?
To know, for adults, to know that, they've been there. So, they kind of, if they can remember, they can know what it's like to be struggling with something and everyone expects them to already understand it, but also taking a step back and, checking yourself. No, I know that I might think that they are past it, but in reality, they can't. So, taking a moment to, step back and, look at the facts.
Yeah, that's a good point. To have perspective, try to remember. It's hard sometimes, I think, for those of us who we get up in the years and then our memory starts to decline.
Yeah.
But how about reading another poem? Because we have a version of this where there's some music behind it, so it might be interesting to do back to back.
Okay. This poem was one of the first poems I wrote.
Yeah.
So it's called Ghost Boys. White shoes, muddy coats, people moving around. Nobody seems to know. The ghost boys watch me. Pushing and shoving, trying to be the first. Nobody seems to realize. The ghost boys watch them. Loud sobs, messy hair, crying out for help. Nobody seems to hear. The ghost boys watch me. Tired eyes, fake smiles, masks cover up their true feelings. The ghost boys watch them. The ghost boys see you. The ghost boys haunt me. The ghost boys know everything, drive everything we do. White shoes, muddy coats, people moving around. Nobody seems to know. The ghost boys watch me. Pushing and shoving, trying to be the first. Nobody seems to realize. The ghost boys watch them. Loud sobs, messy hair, crying out for help. Nobody seems to hear. The ghost boys watch me. Tired eyes, fake smiles, masks cover up. Their true feelings, the ghost boys watch them. The ghost boys see me. The ghost boys haunt you. The ghost boys know everything, drive everything we do.
I know that there have been a few people that you've read that for who've been like, okay, man, talk about that. What's going on there?
So the ghost boys are kind of like each individual person's like inner demons and like how much of an impact that they have over us. And like I really like this last line, the last two lines. The ghost boys know everything, drive everything we do. Like even if you don't realize, but like your inner demons do have a lot to do like with how you act and what decisions you make, like even if you don't realize it.
Yeah, some of these things happen on an unconscious or level. That, boy, how are we ever going to get past that?
Yeah.
Is it significant that as a girl you wrote a poem where your inner demons are boys?
I never really thought about it, but I think I just kind of liked how the ghost boys sounded.
Uh-huh.
Like the ghost girls just sounded a little cheesy.
I see, yeah, that alliteration wasn't working so well.
Yeah.
I just wondered if there was if there were some ghost boys particularly had to be watching out for. But, that's
No.
cool. Well, I want to say thank you so much for sharing with us. I mean, I could honestly talk to you for a long time because you're so articulate and so willing
Thank you.
to explore these topics. Do you recognize that about yourself?
The articulate part, not really, but like the willingness, yeah, I think it's important for people to talk about these things and like share their own stories and struggles so other people can have like another person to like not look up to, but like relate to.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, you are articulate, and sometimes my questions can meander, or maybe there's like 3 points in them, and there's not a lot of pause from you. You have answers, or at least you have a willingness to explore.
Yeah.
That's important. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
As you heard from her interview, that is a very insightful and articulate young girl. I also have her reciting some other work that she wrote, and I'd like to play those.
A dark crevice opens into demonic world. Silence broken by water. Drip, drip, drip. The clock's hands move slowly. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Moving faster and faster and faster until the world comes to a halt. The peering ghosts breathe down your back, reminding that you are nothing, nothing, nothing. Snap. Cold fluorescent light blinds you. A hard hospital bed. Rushing voices overwhelm you. Frozen, as cold as ice. Repeated questions. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? People see a girl wasting away, jagged bones stabbing through skin, nothing more than a skeleton. Barely able to stand, incapable of movement. Intense, deep pain spreads through every fiber of her being. Pain so deep she craves it, seeking the sensation of slowly floating away. People scream, they cry for her to stop. All she hears are muffled whispers. All she can think of is mouth-watering pain. She wants it to take over. Nothing matters anymore, only the feeling of her body, dying. Craving the pain that kills, her body floats away into nothing, nothing, nothing.
When you listen to her writing, one of the really nice techniques that she employs is the use of repetition. And repetition is something that can be very effective in poetry, certainly music, songwriting. You hear the chorus repeated. When an image is strong, when a line is powerful, repetition can really work to drive it home, keep it in the mind of the listener. However, as a writer, you also want to be looking out for when you're being redundant, rather than using repetition in a positive way. It's just something to be aware of. Sometimes it's better to pick another word than use the same one again. But in certain instances, the repetition is powerful, creates a kind of movement in the poem, adds a surreal quality. I have a couple of other poems written by my guest on this first show, which she wasn't able to recite during the time that we worked together, so I'm going to read them. We referenced this poem early on because I hadn't had a chance to type it up when she first turned it in. It's called Abuse. Screamed names and dirty shoes. Privacy was a luxury. Faked dinners, tension underneath, wishing for real love. Matted hair, a lowered head, waiting for approval. Questioning and guessing, needing to be right. Rejection shatters my core. Forced jokes, one-sided laughter. Will I ever be enough? Yelling and screaming, covering a cowering body. Is this what love is? I don't know who I am when I'm with you. Am I the perfect daughter who hangs on your every word, subordinate to your commands? Or am I me, faking my feelings, smiling through tears? I'm not hurt by you. I am strong, wrong. You give me the cold shoulder when I need a shoulder to cry on. You give me nothing but pain when I need a dad. This concludes the first broadcast of Teen-Centric. Any young people, any listeners at all who are thinking about creative writing but haven't tried it before, haven't tried poetry, a number of the people I work with, this is their first foray into poetry writing, and it's really worked out well. So for any listeners who are thinking about it, you're encouraged. On the next episode, I will be interviewing several of my poetry students who at the time of the interview were incarcerated in the Juvenile Justice Center in Oxnard. And you will hear some very intense stories of drug addiction, being on the streets, being involved with gangs and violence.
Okay, this one is called Truth, and it's about one of my ex-boyfriends. From sleeping in cars with you to walking the streets at 3 a.m. in the rain, I stood by your side throughout your struggles. I never judged you. I paid close attention to the way the drugs made you happy in a way that I never could. It made me jealous as I watched the smoke you were chasing from the burning foil form a smile on your bony face. I wonder what was wrong with me that I could never satisfy you, so I turned to the pipe for answers with your help lighting it, but ended up with nothing, only hurt, and that hurt turned slowly into hate. I guess some people are brought into our lives for lessons and not blessings.
I never thought I'd be like this, stuck in a bathroom for hours, doing dope next to the person I love, walking hours for hours all over town, looking for foil on the ground, not knowing what to do, just know time is running out. I lost all my respect, and especially all my values just for drugs. I live on the streets, and I am only 18 and addicted to drugs. I wish my family knew how much I love them, but I'm just addicted to drugs.
When I was little, my mom and I would shiver. I remember her saying we suffered in Mexico, so we came to the States to find something better. Now sitting in jail, I write her sad letters, wishing I didn't feel so alone. Here in the halls, my mom is the only one who answers my calls. When I'm missing her, I put my hands together. I pray that angels above protect you and the skies remain blue. Mom, I'll always love you, always love you, always love you.
You told me basically when you were 17 years old you got shot.
Yeah.
There are probably people listening that would be like, what? A 17-year-old girl getting shot?
Right.
How can that be?
Well, because of the gang life, you know? So surrounding yourself around people that probably gonna get you caught up and hurt. A couple months later, I got stabbed 20 times, so yeah.
You've been listening to Teen-Centric on KPPQ-LP Ventura at 104.1 FM. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Craig Rosen. And I do want to acknowledge my collaborator, Kenny Dredd, who puts music behind the poems that my students recite. He works with a sound library from DeWolf, and he does a masterful job. Teen-Centric is a partnership with the Ventura County Arts Council, CAPS Radio, and the Ventura County Probation Agency. We receive funding for this program from the California Arts Council's Jump Starts grant that provides support for arts instruction to system-engaged and at-risk youth. You can hear Teen-Centric Mondays at 11 a.m., Thursdays at 1 p.m., Fridays at 9 a.m.